What's going on, everybody? This is Smokin Joe once again with another great episode of Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast. And we are now on episode 3, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you guys for tuning in and watching episode 2 just the other day. And if you haven't got to check out episode 2 or episode 1, be sure to check it out on Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok. And I got 2 words that I want to start out this podcast with. Aurora Borealis. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This week, many people had stood on their front porches or even on the top of the mountains here in eastern Kentucky and also around the country to view the northern lights, aka Aurora Borealis. And although you couldn't really see it with the naked eye, you was able to get a good look at it through your camera lens. And we went outside, me and my sister went outside and we took pictures of it, and I mean, you can literally see just about every star in the galaxy that night. And then next thing you know, we got on Facebook, and that's when you started to see people all over social media post pictures of the Aurora Borealis. And I just think it's crazy that since last year, normally seeing something like that, a geomagnetic storm or Aurora Borealis or whatever you want to call it, that it was like a once-in-a-lifetime experience, depending on what area of the world that you lived at. And just since last year, it's been more common to see. And, I mean, I'll never forget the first time that I seen it last year, I was just kind of blown away. Like, that was the first time ever, just besides seeing it on, TV or in pictures or Maximum Overdrive. Which I'm kind of surprised that, so far it hasn't made all machines and vehicles try to kill people. But, at least that didn't happen. But, it's still pretty sight to see. And, ladies and gentlemen, while I'm talking about this, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think of, seeing the Aurora Borealis if you had the chance to see it last night or any other time before. What you think about it. And what's your thoughts on, it being more common nowadays to see versus in years past when it was just a once-in-a-lifetime thing? Well, folks, I couldn't help myself. I had to start out the episode talking about that because it's always an exciting thing to talk about. But speaking of talking about stuff, we're going to have plenty to talk about on this episode. I'm going to be sharing a personal story with you guys here very, very soon, later on in the episode. We're also going to be talking about a popular 90s soft drink that's actually making a comeback, but in a little bit of a different form. We're also going to be talking about character AI, and also my take on the show Extreme Cheapskates. I actually watched that show for the first time, and you'll hear what my thoughts are about that show coming up here later in the show. But first, let's dive into video game news. The Simpsons, along with other characters from Family Guy and Bob's Burgers, have now made their way into Fortnite. And I gotta say, even though I'm not a big Fortnite player, just seeing the videos on YouTube and, wherever you find, wherever you watch videos from, and seeing The Simpsons now in Fortnite, I think it's pretty fun. That would actually be a game that I could honestly get into, but that's, I've never actually played it, but, it's pretty cool to see them back in action, in the video game world. And, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who play Fortnite and, was able to download the Simpsons, DLC, and let me know what you think of it. If you've enjoyed it, I mean, it looks fun. If you're a diehard fan of the show like I am, this would be something that you would get definitely excited about. And I've always, like I said, I've always been a big lifelong fan of The Simpsons since day one. And even now, I watch the show religiously. Just not really much on the newer episodes, but now the older episodes from the 90s and early 2000s, those are the ones that I definitely get behind. And, of course, with anything great like that, there's always video games that follow along with it as well. And The Simpsons have been in many different video games just over the last 30-odd years. From the NES games to the Super Nintendo games like Virtual Bar and Bart's Nightmare. I mean, there have been several. Now, personally, the Super Nintendo games I remember a lot. Bart's Nightmare literally being a nightmare, one of the hardest video games that I've ever played. And then you have the early 2000s with games like Simpsons Hit and Run, which is The Simpsons meet GTA, like we've talked about on episode 1. Simpsons Road Rage, which is their version of Crazy Taxi. And also the Simpsons game, which I thought was a masterpiece. Even though I was kind of blown away that the plot was a little bit different than what I expected, because it came out around the same time as the movie, and I figured the plot would be focused more on the movie, but it was actually a completely different plot on its own, and I loved it. They made it work, and I think it was a masterpiece of the game. And then followed shortly after, you had a Family Guy game that was kind of similar, but I don't know, for some reason I didn't really like it as well, but I like the Simpsons game a little bit better, but they kind of went along with the same design and same feel like they did with the Simpsons game. But, if you're into playing nostalgia games, I would definitely consider checking out some of the Simpsons games, whether it's for the older systems or even with Fortnite, check it out. I encourage you. Well, folks, we're going to be jumping into our first break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about not so new drink that's going to be coming back. It's already actually out back in stores right now, but we're going to be talking about more in detail as to what drink exactly I am talking about. And we've got more to coming up here very, very shortly, so be sure to stay tuned. This is the Smokin Podcast with Smokin Joe. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and like I said before we cut to our break, I want to talk about a not-so-new soda that's making its way back into store shelves once again, but with a little bit of a twist. And that, my friends, if you remember from the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s before it got discontinued, Slice is making its way back into store shelves, but it is now considered a real soda with real benefits. It's actually more now of a probiotic drink, and with only 5 grams of sugar or less and no high fructose corn syrup. And as of right now, it only has 3 flavors available, which pays homage to some of the original flavors that they had back in the day. Some of their classic flavors like orange, lemon, lime, and even regular cola flavor. And also, just from what I've noticed just then, they also have a Shirley Temple flavor. And from reviews that I've watched I've not personally tried it yet, but just based on reviews that I've watched so far, I've heard the drink's kind of terrible. It doesn't taste nowhere near the same as it did back in the 90s. I remember it being one of my favorites, especially the orange. That was one of my top favorites. And honestly, they say that the orange tastes worse than any of the rest of them. They said the lemon lime was the best flavor that it's doable to drink, but the rest of them, not so much. So, it's kind of cool to see Slice make a comeback, but at the same time, they need to go back to its original roots and not do this whole healthy thing. Yeah, it's a good idea and all, but when somebody sees a nostalgic product like that come back into limelight again, somebody wants it to be the same as it was back in its glory days, not something completely different. The only thing that they nailed or that they done right was the can design. The can design looks pretty sweet. But taste-wise, not so much. So yes, rumors are correct. Slice is back once again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I discovered a new show last night, which it's been around for a long time, but I never actually took the time to watch it. And that is Extreme Cheapskates that comes on TLC. And while the show has been on for many years, for some reason I just never just never thought to actually check it out. But I was introduced to it last night, and needless to say, I was blown away as to the measures of what some people would take just to save on a few dollars. And some of these people would have like high-paying jobs and do stuff like this. Like there was a lady on the first episode I watched that she was a CPA, and she would go out in the dumpster and find food and serve it on her table, or wear the same socks and underwear for 20 years to the point it looks like rats have chewed around the crotch of them. I mean, it was just insane just to see what some people would do just to save a few extra dollars. The one that I probably cracked up at the most was the woman who thought it was a good idea to fix homemade lasagna in a dishwasher and reuse pasta sauce that came from her family's plates, instead of just cracking open a new jar of tomato sauce and do it that way. I mean, who in their right mind would do that? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all about free stuff, and I'm all about, finding good deals every once in a while, but I would never go to that measure right there. And then she wonders why people thought that her lasagna tasted nasty. I mean, you put it in the dang dishwasher, I mean, yeah, it's going to taste watered down and taste like Cascade. Of course it is. It's made in the dishwasher. Nobody wants to eat that crap. I just don't understand, but at the same time, it's real comical because just seeing, like I said, the lengths that people will go just to, not break the bank. And I mean, really not break the bank. Another episode, it showed this guy wanted to plan this big, elaborate party for his wife to celebrate their 10th anniversary. And he went as far as to, buying cheap balloons and just going all cheap. I mean, it was definitely... if it was an anniversary dinner, I would go all out for, my lady. Because that's a big deal, especially if it's a milestone like that. But I wouldn't cheap out and just buy random balloons that says, congratulations, or, congratulations, or it's a boy, just random stuff like that, I would go all out. But then you got some people, just to save a few dollars, they decide to cheap out and find whatever they can. So yeah, Extreme Cheapskates. And out of all channels it could be on, it was on TLC, what's supposed to be the Learning Channel. And I remember a long time ago, like back when I was a kid, you could actually watch educational programming on TLC. That's just like MTV used to be able to play music, but now it's all about reality TV. And now on TLC you've got shows like My Strange Addictions, Extreme Cheapskates, and Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. Which, I give it benefit of the doubt, you can at least learn from Extreme Cheapskates. With the way the economy is right now, it helps you save money. But I just wouldn't take some of the measures that some of them would take, just to save a few extra dollars. But, I guess a lot of people are different. And then, okay, and I'll move on to the next topic after this, but another episode I wanted to share. There was a family of 4 that, to save money on their water bill, that they would share the same bath water, which I think is absolutely just disgusting. And then instead of using toilet paper, which I get, toilet paper is very, very expensive. Yeah, the Charmin Bears have got to make money too. But newspapers. Who would want to use newspapers to wipe your butt on? Oh, we don't have no toilet paper, but here's the shopper stopper. There you go. That just sounds like it'd be painful. Ugh, watching it last night, it really made me scratch my head, and there was times that I just couldn't help but to laugh out loud just to see, what some people will do just to, not be financially embarrassed, And they would have good paying jobs and, would be this, be this cheap and money hungry that they don't want to spend not even $1. And I just don't get it. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear it from you. Well, for a couple of things. If you have tried the new, sliced drink they have out right now, feel free to let me know what you think. If you liked it or not, and you're happy to see it come back. And also with Extreme Cheapskates, have you ever watched the show? Are you an Extreme Cheapskate? Do you do some of the things that's demonstrated in the episodes? Share your thoughts. This is your show too. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think. And we'll facilitate a discussion. Usually I reply back, so if you want to get a reply back from me, just feel free to leave a comment and we will talk about it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we got coming up next on Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast, we're going to be talking about a new app. Well, it's actually not necessarily new, but it's been around for a little bit, called Character AI. And as I mentioned in episode 1, AI is basically taking over the world. They've got an AI app for everything. But this is an AI app that I think is really, really cool. And I'll talk about more about it in detail whenever we come back from commercial. And also coming up, we're going to be talking about the new trailer for Toy Story 5. And also I'll be sharing a personal story that I've been wanting to share since episode 1, but I'm finally building up the courage to talk about it. Just talk about my current health situation and, just talk about it for a little bit. So be sure to stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We still got plenty more to talk about. This is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you guys are still staying tuned and listening to Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. And I hope you guys are having a great time so far as you hear me ramble and rant about all these different things and having a good time while doing it, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to remind everybody, if you haven't done so yet, be sure to go on Facebook and like and follow the Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast Facebook page. And you can also watch content available on my TikTok page and also on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So be sure to check it out and keep up with all posts and updates as they come available and also new episodes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, going back into our discussions once again, an app that I wanted to talk about is Character AI. This is a new app that I've discovered a few months back. And I think it's actually one of the coolest apps in human existence. And I'm actually going to show a demonstration of it here very shortly. And to put it in a nutshell, what Character AI is you can actually communicate with different characters, whether it be cartoon characters, fictional characters, or even celebrities. But keep in mind, it's not the real deal. It's, just AI. And it can be deceased celebrities. It can be, and it sounds identical to that person. And I've had conversations with many of them so far, and I've enjoyed it. It's definitely, a fun app to download. If you haven't, had the chance to do so yet, be sure to check it out and, see what you think about it. It blows my mind, as far as, how much AI has came along just in the last couple of years, especially now with apps like Character AI and Sora, that just makes it, cooler. And ladies and gentlemen, what I'm getting ready to do is show you a demonstration of how Character AI works. And when I first made my account on the app, of course, the first celebrity that I had to have a conversation with was the late and great John Candy, best known for movies such as Uncle Buck, Home Alone, Great Outdoors, and of course my favorite movie that I like to watch around this time of the year, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And whenever you use this app, you can actually communicate with the character one of two ways. You can either talk with them using microphone, like you're having a phone conversation with them, and or you can also use the chat feature, and you can also message that character. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is John Candy. Hey John, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well, my friend. How are things with you?
I'm doing okay, can't really complain. How's everything up in Canada right now?
Things are going pretty well up here. We've got some beautiful fall weather right now, and the leaves are starting to change color. It's a great time of year. How's things down in the States?
Actually, not bad. We just been dealing with cold weather, which I know cold weather is what you guys deal with a lot up in Canada, and just been getting ready for Thanksgiving and just taking it easy.
That's good to hear. Thanksgiving is a great time to relax and spend time with family and friends. And it's always a great opportunity to enjoy some delicious food. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
Of course, I have to go with turkey. But you know, one of your big pancakes from Uncle Buck sounds really good right about now, too.
Ha! Flatters that my pancakes from Uncle Buck are on your mind? They sure were delicious, if I do say so myself. But turkey is definitely a classic favorite during the Thanksgiving season.
And that, my friends, is a demonstration of how character AI works. I know that wasn't really the best demonstration. I know it kind of sounds off, but there's some of the voices that you can find on there that actually sound pretty spot on. I mean, I would definitely go and check it out, and just, if you have used it before, let me know in the comments, and let me know which celebrities that you talk to on their characters. And like I said, it can range from comic book characters to video game characters, cartoon characters, fictional movie characters, you name it, you can find it on there. You can also even create your own voices on there, whether you do your own actual voice, or you can even create your own character. And I've noticed on a couple different YouTube channels that people would use character AI. They would use the voice from a deceased loved one and would use it on there, and it would be like they're talking to that person like they're still here, just like having a phone conversation. A YouTube channel that I follow, Kid Behind the Camera, somebody had created Angry Grandpa. I know many of you are familiar with Angry Grandpa if you watch him on YouTube. He's been, he passed away back in 2017, and somebody had recreated his voice on there, and it just sounded so real that, I mean, it was just like having a conversation with him. It's just, it definitely brings tears to your eyes, once you hear it. But anybody that's ever used character AI, feel free to share your experience, and, let us know what characters you speak with on there. And trust me, I've got several that I've communicated with, whether it's John Candy, Chris Farley, Angry Grandpa. I mean, it's, it's pretty cool, I think. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we cut to break earlier, I also mentioned that I was going to share a personal story with you guys that I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. My original intention was to talk about it on episode 1, but I feel like right now would be a great time to talk about it. But as many of you know, to those of you who know me personally that's watching the video right now, you know that over the last couple of years that I've been sick with a condition called lymphedema. And it's shut down the way of life as I used to know it. I would always be, out and about, going places. I was working still yet, just living life like I normally do. And then once my condition worsened, things just it just shut down. And I'd have people tell me that it's because I'm being lazy or whatever, and that I've just gave up, and that's not it. Lymphedema is a condition that you have no control over, and anybody can get it. That's the thing that I've learned about. Whether you're skinny or whether you're, heavy set like I am, anybody can get it. And these last couple years, like I had to stay in the hospital 2 years ago almost. I had to stay in the hospital for 2 months until, I was able to come back home. And even when I did come back home, I still wasn't able to really walk on my own. But after physical therapy and, taking the steps myself, I was able to finally get back on my feet. And it wasn't no easy task either. And while I'm still not where I want to be just yet, it's still, I'm still fighting right now to get my old life back. And it's definitely not been an easy task. But through all this, it, reminded me that nothing is ever impossible or nothing is too difficult to accomplish. And while it may seem like a forever process, it's nothing's impossible. I'm thankful to say that, I'm thankful to be where I'm at right now, and that God has given me a second chance, because I could have died before I went to the hospital. And I'm just thankful God was able to give me a second chance, and that He was with me through all this. It's, like I said, it's not been easy, and it's been a real big burden in my life, because I was used to going out and working and just being out and about all the time, and that's something that I miss. A lot of times I'm home anymore, and the only time I go out is like for doctor's appointments and stuff. But don't let, if you have lymphedema, don't think that it's the end of the world when you get it. I know it's not easy to deal with, and you're in pain a lot, and just to kind of give you an education as to what lymphedema is, to those of you who have never heard of it. It's the swelling of your lymph nodes. And of course you have lymph nodes in your body, like all through your body, whether it's in your legs, your arms, or whatever. That if there is a clog in the lymphatic system, that it can cause certain parts of your body to swell abnormally large. And that can be your legs, your neck, wherever. Well, the problem started in both of my legs. And it got to the point that it was so severe that eventually my body was almost septic. And if I would have waited a couple of days later and not go to the hospital, they would have found me dead. There's not a single doubt in my mind. And I'm thankful for everybody that's been here for me, family, friends, and for the medical staff, home health and medical staff that has been there for me through it all, because there's no way that I would be here right now if it wasn't for them. It's not been easy, and it's still like an everyday fight to get back to normalcy, but I'm not giving up. I just want anybody to know that is dealing with this right now, there's always hope. And while things may seem dark, you can always get your life back. You can always work toward it. And I couldn't tell you how many articles that I've read online saying that there's no cure for lymphedema. While that may be, you can do some lifestyle changes to help, reduce the symptoms more. Whether it's through diet and exercise or less sodium. There's other ways that you can do it that can help bring the swelling down, even though the problem doesn't go away fully. So just know that there's always hope. And, if you see somebody that's struggling with lymphedema, don't think it's just because they're being lazy or whatever. It's a real serious illness that needs more recognition and more awareness spread about it, because it can happen to anybody. And this is something that I would never want to wish, not even on my worst enemy. Because it's honestly the worst thing that I've ever had to deal with, and I would never want to go through it again. To go through everything that I had to endure just in the last couple of years. But to get where I'm at right now, it's been worth it, putting up the fight and, It's still a fight even today. But never give up on hope, and just keep on fighting, and just know that you've got this. And I want to hear from you guys too. If this is something that, if you or somebody you know has been through, has been diagnosed with lymphedema, feel free to share your story. And just know that my prayers are with you through this, because I know exactly how you feel. And you'll get through it. I promise you'll get through it. Because if I can, anybody can. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we have coming up next, before we close up shop, we're going to be talking more about the Toy Story 5 trailer that came out just recently. And also, a new trailer for the Super Mario Galaxy movie has been released as well. So we're going to be talking about that. And lastly, we'll be closing up shop and ending this episode 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back here very shortly. This is Smokin' Joe's Smokin' Podcast. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the new trailers that have just been unveiled for the new upcoming movies, animated movies to be exact, for Toy Story 5 and also the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Now, to those of you who don't know me, I am definitely a man-child at heart. Yes, I still watch cartoons, and no, I'm not ashamed of it. And if you got a problem, then we'll take it to the Walmart parking lot and we'll fight about it. I mean, I don't care what you think. If you think I'm a child about watching cartoons, then you can think whatever you want. But Toy Story has always been a big fan favorite of mine since the first one came out back in 1995. And, you know, that's a movie that never gets old with me. Like, I could watch it a million times, and it's still just as funny as it was back those many years ago. And it's hard to believe that's been 30 years ago now. This year it celebrates the 30th anniversary, and that's just unreal. But Toy Story 5, of course, is going to be starring some of the original actors, reprising their roles as the characters of Buzz and Woody, Tim Allen, and Tom Hanks. You also have Joan Cusack as Jessie, along with Blake Clark as Slinky. And also you have appearances from actors and actresses such as Anna Faris, Ernie Hudson, Conan O'Brien, and Greta Lee, who will be joining in on the team. And right now, Toy Story 5 is scheduled to be released in theaters on June 19th of next year here in the United States, while it is unknown as to when it will be released in other countries. And the plot of the movie, since Woody left Bonnie to help abandoned toys find owners, Jessie has led the charge in Bonnie's room with Buzz Lightyear as her second in command. However, an 8-year-old Bonnie has become enamored of her new favorite plaything, a frog-like tablet named LilyPad. So kind of like, Leapfrog. The Leapfrog tablets that they have out nowadays. And I feel like this is a good take on the movie because, a lot of kids nowadays, they're more into digital gadgets like iPads and things like that versus normal toys. And while, yes, toys are still popular, but that's why the store chains like Toys R Us have went under. Because more kids are into technology rather than playing with actual toys. So it's like all the kids that were once Toys R Us kids have now finally grown up. But Toy Story 5 is scheduled to be released on June 19th of next year. And needless to say, a lot of people, including myself, is very excited. And speaking of excitement, another movie trailer that's been released just here in the last little bit is the trailer for the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which is scheduled also to be out for next year. And the release date will actually be coming out before Toy Story 5, and that'll be on April 3rd of next year. And it's like I said, it's based more on the video game of Super Mario Galaxy, which was released back in 2007, and is a direct sequel to the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out just a couple years ago. And it will have some of the original cast from the first movie, including Chris Pratt, Charlie Day, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, and Kevin-Michael Richardson. And I'm pretty excited about the movie, and especially if you're a video game fan like I am, this will be one that you'll definitely enjoy. In the Super Mario Brothers movie, it was actually done right, and I loved it. Comparing the 2023 movie to the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out 30 years prior, it's actually done a lot better. And to those of you who like watching retro movies, I encourage you to check out the Super Mario movie from '93 and just see how truly terrible it is. It don't exactly follow through with the actual video game. It's just, it's just wrong. They make Bowser into a human. Yoshi, instead of him being the cute dinosaur like he is in the video games, of course they made him into a Velociraptor, which also keep in mind that was in 1993. That was also the same year that Jurassic Park was released, so of course they were getting a little experimental with CGI dinosaurs, because everybody loved dinosaurs then. And then, probably the most terrifying element of the movie was the Goomba. That's enough that, it'll cause you nightmares for weeks. Just FYI. So if you want to talk about true terror, if you think movies like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th terrifying, you have not watched the Super Mario movie from '93. And it's definitely nothing like the 2023 version. That's actually done right, and it is phenomenal. And if you haven't watched that movie, definitely check it out wherever it's streaming at right now. I have no idea, but I'm really excited and really hopeful that the Mario Galaxy movie is going to be exactly just like the Mario movie from 2023. So I'm really excited about that, and like I said, it's going to be coming out on April 3rd of next year. So a couple of movies to look forward to, and if you're still a child at heart like me, then get excited, because it's going to be great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode of the Smokin Podcast with Smokin Joe. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in and listening in with me, and we'll be sure to, I hope you guys will be joining me once again for episode 4 coming up here very, very soon. And with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day and a great week, and we shall see you next time. This is Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast.